So many people are now doing intermittent fasting and they're finding, they're able to skip breakfast because their body's just not even turned on yet. But they might still get hangry later on at night if they skip a meal. Do you think there's a correlation there?
Yeah, well, absolutely. I actually think that the intermittent fasting works in its own way, but a lot of times if you're hormonally imbalanced, right? I think metabolically busted and hormonally busted, especially for women over 40, a lot of times they go hand in hand. And so intermittent fasting in the morning doesn't always necessarily is the best for those who are already stressing out. They're already, feeling in survival mode the moment they wake up and they've got a gazillion things they need to do. And so a lot of times it actually piles on and the metabolism is just forced to keep going because their stress hormone is pushing them to go. What's your experience when you're actually talking to women who
I
are doing
I think the exact same thing. I think that it's a time and place for every individual. I know I was doing it and I was wearing a blood sugar monitor just because I like to do that occasionally to understand what's happening. And as we know, when we exercise, we can go pretty high. Our sugar level can go pretty high because our body's trying to give it to us. So I teach body combat. And so this was the only time that my blood sugar went like way up, like past 11 when I was doing intermittent fasting and cardio. And then it dropped down really low to like an emergency range, like right away, like 3, 2.5. And the way I interpret that is, you know what? It's okay to shock the body occasionally. It's okay to do that. Your body wants to look after you. It's good to have some times where it has to save you. But if you're doing that every day, if your body's having these crashes every day, that's going to put you into a metabolically busted state. And I bet that, when I did that before I was, past 45, my body could handle it more. But now that I'm older, it's different. Things have changed. So I do think that for women that are older, we really have to think about cycles and hormones, and doing this long fasting might just be more stress on the body than we really think we should be doing. So I do think it's a very individual case, and I do find that often, men don't have the same kind of issues with it. They're the ones that often seem to be able to ride it out better.
Yeah. Well, I think there's just a different with the cycling of the hormones. We as women, we just shift our metabolism change, when we are going through a cycle, for those who are still, at the perimenopausal or premenopausal stage, it is really important to actually listen to the body. Metabolically busted sometimes, as we're going to go over a few more like symptoms, is a lot of times it's just how our bodies, it gets busted when we're actually just pushing it too hard, whether, for example, a lot of one of the common ones that you and I talked about is if our gallbladder doesn't work, or if we have, bloating or, reflux. Those are all a lot of times from stress responses or poor eating habits that ends up making us not be able to absorb or digest or break down the food, right, which is the fuel source efficiently.